Peace and welcome to The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First, let's talk about this bombshell of footage of longtime confidant of former President Donald Trump, Roger Stone. There's footage of him for a documentary that shows that he was coordinating efforts to overturn the 2020 election and perhaps involved in the January 6th insurrection. All of this is on film. Also, folks, Tucker Carlson, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, and this idea of having proof of greatness. I'm going to break it down to you, but how insane and racist is this? We'll have that discussion. Also, later on, how employers around the country are tapping into a very, very deep part of you to get you to stay with them, and most importantly, to be satisfied. They want to know your love language. Will this change how work is done in this country? Will it change the culture of employee-employer relationships? We'll discuss the matter. So stay with us. All of that and a whole lot more on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the show. Welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Man, oh man, I got so much to share with you. We're going to be checking in a few moments with our culture crew, Shaquaya McKenzie and Bakari Jones. It's Friday, folks. Oh my gosh. When I tell you how excited I am about today's show, I'm super excited. First, let's talk about the fact that there's this bombshell footage of Roger Stone. If you don't know who Roger Stone is, he's been a longtime confidant. Some people say an associate, some people say supporter. I think he plays in a lot of different capacities, but they're calling it the Roger Stone tapes. He's a longtime confidant of former President Donald Trump. And on tape, on film, folks, you can see him witnessing what happened on January the 6th. You can see him coordinating efforts to overturn the election. I mean, a lot of evidence. I'm going to use that word. Evidence to show that he was involved in the Stop the Steal movement, that he was involved, and it looks like there are links. Folks, let me just say this. There are links to show that he may have known something about the January 6th insurrection. I want to first bring my culture crew. Then I want to show you a couple of pieces of this video. But we're going to be joined by we're joined by Shaquaya McKenzie, who is an educator and activist, and then Bakari Jones, who is an activist within the LGBTQIA community, and she's an educator as well. Bakari, Shaquaya, good afternoon. How are you ladies feeling today?
Good afternoon, Farajii.
Friday. Happy Friday. I'm feeling good.
It is a happy Friday. It is a happy Friday. All right, sisters, let me just break this thing down for all of those who are listening. Here's the situation. Roger Stone, again, he is a longtime friend. He has known Donald Trump for at least 20 years, at least 20 to 30 years. Longtime friend, longtime confidant of the president, former president. He is showing he was doing this documentary called A Storm Foretold. And this documentary is scheduled to be released later on this year. In this documentary, he has allowed filmmakers to have personal access to him for the past 2 years. They've captured a lot of different footage of him. Like they've captured him being in the camera, face in the camera footage. They've captured him what they call fly on the wall footage, where, you know, they just sitting in a room and he's just doing his business. Candid off camera convos, because you can hear him because he was always mic'd up throughout this whole period. And they also captured views of his iPhone as he messaged associates through an encryption app. So they captured all of this, and throughout this time that they were with him, they also captured him coordinating post-election protests and communicating with leaders of far right groups like Oath Keepers, who is it? I think they call it the Oath Keepers, and what's the boy's name? Man, I forgot the name just that quickly. But far right groups, and I'm gonna get that name for you folks. But a lot of far right groups. I mean, they captured him saying, doing things that I think, Shaquille, that I think puts him right dab in the middle of this whole situation about what really happened on January 6th. Did President Trump know? Did President Trump and his associates coordinate the effort? They captured a lot of stuff that seems to link Roger Stone to this. And if they never captured Roger Stone actually talking to President Trump, but you know, he did say that he talks to the president very frequently. I want to first play a couple of clips of this video. Keena, let's play this first clip that you got up of him talking on the phone, talking about how he wants to launch the Stop the Steal campaign. Check this out.
I would like you to just monitor the news for the most egregious examples of vote stealing of any type. Ballots found in trash, ballots found in dumpster, ballots burned, suitcases brought into anything you can find, and send us the links. Above the link, give us the quick version. Ballots found in dumpster in Texas. Michigan papers over doors for lack of transport, whatever it is. That would be very helpful. We are relaunching Stop the Steal. We're going to raise money for Stop the Steal. It'll be like falling off a log. We don't know yet. You cannot. The site, the bank account's not open. The site is not up and operational, and I couldn't tell you what our program is. So I can't go see a donor and say, "Give me money," because then they say, "Well, I'd consider it. What exactly are you going to do with my money?"
That was just a few excerpts from this upcoming documentary, A Storm Foretold. If you remember, Roger Stone, like I mentioned, is a longtime confidant of the former president, but he actually got pardoned by the president as well because of some illegal activities that he was doing, which I believe what he was doing on behalf of the president. But he got pardoned as well. And to add salt to the injury, he did testify. He did do a deposition with the House committee back on December the 17th as they questioned him about his involvement with the January 6th insurrection, as well as his involvement with the overturning of the 2020 election. So he did do that. So this dude is like all up in the middle of the situation. But Shaquaya, I'm going to start with you. I mean, this right here, I feel like it's enough to say President Trump knew what was about to happen on January the 6th. He had his people coordinating things to make things happen so January the 6th and, of course, the ongoing big lie can be told. But I don't know if that's going to be enough. But what's your take on it, Shaquaya?
Yeah, I mean, can you call out what is apparent? That Roger Stone is one of Trump's longtime henchmen, has always been willing to do illegal and legal things to ensure that he has the position of power and authority that he has, either through his business dealings and more recently, of course, through his political dealings. Yeah, we could say that. The evidence, though, is what is going to constitute any conviction of charges upon which he can't be pardoned in the future that could possibly take place. I'd be really interested in knowing if the committee or where the committee is in rendering any possible charges against Roger Stone. You know, what's really funny to me, and I have to emphasize that this is hilarious, right? That someone who was convicted of doing something illegal for the president, for him to become president, was convicted and pardoned by the president. And we have video footage of him continuing to do things of illicit nature to ensure that the president can remain in his presidency, that which he tried to overturn illegally. Yeah. I mean, like it's like we're watching the HBO. It's like The Sopranos, but like, you know, with I don't even know what to call this. It's just so ruthless. It's just so ridiculous that it makes if the judicial system was not locking up millions of people of color, I would think it was a joke, right?
Right.
Because it just makes no sense. But it makes perfect sense. How could you not assume and not only looking at this footage, but predated to this footage coming out through the Washington Post report, any activity that immediately as soon as he was released from prison, Roger Stone was out advocating, campaigning. At first, I think Trump tried to keep a strong arm against him because he didn't want him to get too close while he was actually running for president. But he definitely was in the covert organizing behind the 2020 election. And then as the months went on and we got closer to the actual election, he wasn't as covert. He was more overt, you know, going out into the press and speaking on behalf of the Trump campaign. But it's just only in America could you see a convicted felon, one of the president's homies, the president pardons him and come back out to try to overturn an election and participate in seditious activity and still be out on the streets. Tell me where. Only in America.
Bakari, what do you take of this from this?
I'm on the
Roger Stone, he got it all on Bakari.
I'm on the same page with Shaquette. You know, it's funny she mentioned The Sopranos. I was thinking The Godfather with the folks that have seen The Godfather, Hyman Roth. You know, it's like he was very close. He's in the vicinity. You know, he had something to do with it, but he never touched it, right? You never see him directly. And it's the same thing that we're seeing with this footage. And it's, you know, another instance I've said before, it's like, you know, we're laughing and we're joking about things that seem comical, right? Like it's laughable once again, but to see someone get this close, we see all the evidence of you got chocolate chips on your underneath your fingernails and crumbs on your mouth, but we didn't actually see you eat the cookie. So now there's nothing that we can do about it. So, you know, I think everything that you all said, I'm standing in alignment. It's unbelievable. I mean, I think that to me was interesting. If his actions weren't so seditious, it's somewhat fascinating to see someone be able to get this close.
Yeah.
One, just to the president, and to see someone just like when you start peeling back the layers of what he's done behind the scenes, it's incredible, you know, and to know, you know, in hindsight, the way that Donald Trump, you know, truly believed that he had the best interest of the American people at heart. It's like, well, you wouldn't have needed a Roger Stone on your campaign if that was actually the case. So those are my thoughts, Farajii.
Let me just say this. Go ahead.
I just think that the you know, the other layer of comedy is the fact that this documentary is called A Storm Foretold when it really should be A Storm Conspired, right?
Wow.
Like, what are we? How could it possibly have been foretold when otherwise, besides the point that it was conspired? Clearly, you know, there's that deductive point. And I guess the other layer of comedy is just how ridiculously cunning Roger Stone is, even at his appearance. Like the man looks, I'm not going to get into it for Roger.
Oh, wait, I mean, look, let me just tell you something. Roger Stone is a longtime political strategist for the Republican Party. He's been around for years.
Oh, yeah, he's been doing
decades, right?
He's a practitioner.
He is a practitioner. There is a there's a documentary that Netflix has out. It's called Get Me Roger Stone from 2017. If y'all have never seen it, folks, if you've never seen this, this goes into how Roger Stone became Roger Stone and why he is such an important part of the Trump campaign, the Trump circle, because he has taught Donald Trump how to get things done. There's a, both of you reference like mobster movies. In every mobster movie, there is a gentleman or person that plays the quote unquote the fixer.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And the fixer is the guy that does the dirty work, making sure that the principal, the primary person, don't get none of the dirty work on him, but it can always lead back to him. But the reality is he's the guy behind the guy. Look at that. Check this out. Get Me Roger Stone. Folks, I'm telling you, the level of political operatives, and look, this is actually in both parties. This is not just a Republican thing. This is a Democrat thing as well.
Sure.
So you have these individuals who do underhanded, like you said, Shaquaya, illicit stuff to get their candidate elected. This is the very dirty, dark, seedy side of quote unquote democracy in this country, right? Because we as the elected official, as the constituents, we don't know all of the ins and outs of this stuff. We thinking, and this is how we've been taught, oh, just go to the polls, cast your ballot, and then you've done your job. But these people know, no, it's not that simple. It's not that easy. It's we're going to tell you who your candidate will be. And I think that's the fascinating part about Roger Stone. That's the fascinating part about this whole scenario, is that this is, as much as we are told to follow the rules, to be good citizens, to all of that stuff, to listen and to serve as advocates of this liberal democracy, behind the scenes are corrupt people that have some real issues, political issues. Some of them are straight criminals. Some of them just, it's just behind us. It's this dirty and it's messy.
And what
I just, when I saw this stuff, I was just like, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. What I'm hoping, Shaquaya, is that somebody says something like they must think we're absolute jackasses for us to take a look at this situation and be like, well, it don't really affect. It don't bother us. The man was coordinating an effort to overturn the 2020 election. As far as I understand, we had Luke Broadwater on the show the other day. He's reported with the New York Times. And one of the things he said, anytime you try to interfere with a national election, that is a federal crime. Why aren't these people in prison?
Yeah. Why haven't charges for sedition or treason emerged? Right? Like actually ironclad conspiracy charges, not relevant to the individual protesters who entered the Capitol, but to the conspiring forces that organized the rally that was the impetus for the siege on the Capitol. Why haven't there been more media talking points, if you will, that have emerged from the Democratic Party to make sure this maintains visibility in the eyes of the American public to understand? Because we very well know in our depending on where you stand in the political life and or your social awareness of what has happened from January 6th on, we're still pissed. We're still confused. We're still pressed to see some type of equitable justice done. I know some individuals have been charged, right? Like if you're knowledgeable about who's been about the range of cases that have been met with conviction. Yeah, there's some things that, but at most, I think this is my knowledge right now. Clearly, I don't know every single case, but I don't think anyone who stormed the Capitol, those individual protesters, have received more than 2 years in prison. If that might have been the longest term for individuals, and that's not, taking into consideration commutation that most likely will take place, right? They will not serve those full 2 years. I think most of the charges I've seen range within the sentencing of 6 to 18 months, right? And we see what happens in communities of color where people with nonviolent offenses, drug offenses, can serve upwards to 5 to 10 years in prison. And we're talking about changing the face of what is supposed to be the beacon of democracy in the world. It is absolutely offensive to
it's insulting,
right, to society abroad, but to individuals who really try to move the marker further in terms of ensuring equity and justice and how our society functions. I will say though that to your point, that when we look at this and we question or are led not to question but see what is apparent, we are compelled as individual citizens to hold those accountable who are supposed to be doing the work, to hold those people accountable. It is still our job to hold folks accountable, to make sure they do their job, that people such as Roger Stone get the justice, if we consider it justice at this point, but are held accountable to the actions that led to the Capitol riots. And beyond that, it's not just the Capitol riots, but I think I'm sure there are federal investigations led by Attorney General Merrick Garland relevant to the fraudulent activity that has taken place with the Stop the Steal election and fundraising otherwise for these causes that had no merit to move forward. So you're taking money from people like we know, oh man, what's Trump's other Wrenchman with the acne, and I can't think of his name right now because he's such a he was the very first advisor. Jeez.
I think I know who you're talking about. The name
Steve Bannon. Thank you, Steve Bannon.
Oh, Bannon. Yeah.
Right. Like, Steve Bannon was convicted of raising thousands of dollars from Trump supporters for basically, in a Ponzi scheme going towards a cause for Stop the Steal that went nowhere, right? And just as we see Roger Stone in that last clip that you played, soliciting or advocating for raising funds towards a cause that they don't even have a bank account or a mission for, right? So I just want to know what is the status of these federal investigations that are supposed to address these issues, and why is there not enough visibility about what's going on? Why are the Democrats falling short on holding people accountable on doing the same thing they do, getting their people up in arms to care?
Shaquaya, because I think they're trying to play nice. I think they're just trying to play nice. I don't think they want to ruffle the feathers of. I mean, look, we know they're stupid. That's the stupid. Look, let me tell you something. Man, look, the Democrats got to get their damn balls, man, and go hard in the paint against this situation, because you're losing people. You really losing people. You losing not necessarily people from the values that the Democrats stand on, but you losing members of the party. You losing people from getting involved in elections.
Certainly.
And it's going to, and the corruption and injustice that we've been seeing is going to get so much that people are going to finally get to a place where they say, you know what? I don't care who is going to win. I don't care about this, just simply because y'all are not even speaking to my needs and to my interests and to my concerns. So who cares? I'm going to still live my life. Yeah, policy might come down to that's going to affect this part of my life or that part of my life. But at the end of the day, y'all ain't listen to us. So why should we be in support? Why should we stand tall? Why should we run to your defense for this situation? Look, real quick, and then Bakari, I'm gonna give you the chance to have this. The man said, this is Roger Stone. He had, when the Washington Post pulled him up about all of this footage and everything that they found, because they had done 20 hours worth of review of the footage. In response to the questions, he said in the email about his involvement with the January 6th riot, he said, quote, any claim, assertion, or implication that I knew about, was involved in, or condone the illegal acts at the Capitol on January 6th is categorically false, and there is no witness or document that proves otherwise. This dude must think we must be absolutely crazy.
No,
he
what
must
he
be
knows,
stupid as hell.
What he knows is that if they bring it to court, he has witnesses that will never speak.
Now, but see, Shaquaya, here's the thing. Check this out. And Keenan, if you can pull this up, there's a photo of Roger Stone standing next to the Oath Keeper, and the other group is the Proud Boys. But there's this photo that the Washington Post printed of Roger Stone standing next to an Oath Keeper who is providing security for him on January the 5th, the day before. And then you're going to come out and say that you wasn't involved, any claim, assertion, or implication that you knew about what was going to happen on January the 6th is false, when you are standing next to a representative of one of the groups that coordinated, that implemented, that led the insurrection on January the 6th. You want us to believe that you did not know what was going to happen on January 6th? This ain't about January 6th. This is about the fact that you are insulting the intelligence of the people. You want us to believe that you can have a security man from that group on the day before, but then on January 6th, I ain't know none of that was going to pop off. I ain't know that was going to happen. Man, get the hell out of here with that, man. That's crazy. Look at this. I mean, you got people all around. You got people all around this man providing security. They got communications with him with leadership of Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, and other group, far right groups. Yet you didn't know that on January the 6th, they were going to walk down Washington and kick off something at the Capitol. You didn't know. Bakari, what's your take on this before we take a wrap?
I guess my question, was like, what exactly does Mr. Stone have on former President Trump that allows him to move with such a level of confidence? I mean, anytime, I would be terrified to get sentenced to any time in prison, but there's a certain way that you move with a level of confidence when you know that even if you do get sentenced, it'll be commuted and pardoned. So that's just my question. What more does he know? What more does he have that, maybe in the next documentary, I don't know, that may come out that allows him to move with such a level of confidence? Because to me, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
That's a good point. And I think, sisters, that for all of us who are on the outside of this, as we are going into this election year, and even as we prepare for the 2024 election, I think we really do need to have some deeper conversations about, putting some level of accountability on this administration and to the whole idea of democracy, where we're saying, if you allow Trump on the ballot, he should not even be on the ballot with all this madness going on. If you allow Trump on the ballot, we're not participating. Because at this point, it's absolutely insanity. At this point, you're insulting my intelligence. At this point, I can't with you. If they allow Trump on the ballot, Bakari and Shaquaya, after all of this, but they want us to go to the poll and make the best decision, and without no consequences felt, without any consequences to Trump, without the consequences to anybody that is in his circle, without any consequence. Why should we keep getting involved? And I'm saying this to this administration. If Merrick Garland can't bring up real charges, like charges that will stick and say, look, man, we can't go forward with this. If the January 6th committee come out of this whole, they've done over 550 interviews, and y'all come out and say, well, after the interview, we concluded, and it doesn't lead to substantial, tangible consequences for any of those individuals that they call. Y'all pushing us in a corner where we gonna have to fight. We gonna have to figure out what the next step, because with that flagrant, blatant violation of the law, you want us to follow the law, but y'all not keeping a fire on those other individuals to have them to follow the law. But we will be the wrong ones if we don't go out to vote. That's the BS about this. If we don't go out to vote, we seem un-American. We seem unpatriotic. But these jokers can walk around and manipulate the system free and clear, and nobody's calling them un-American, unpatriotic. Man, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. And I think, I'm serious, as black folks, as even good thinking, conscious white people, I don't care where you from, who you are. That's crazy. And this administration, because all of this stuff is coming out right now, this administration has to deal with that. They can't pass this on to the next administration. You can't be like, well, we're going to wait until, no. Y'all got it. Y'all only 1 year in. You got 3 more years, bro. Mr. President, Madam Vice President, you got 3 more years. And if you can't make something happen and bring in some level of punishment and enforcing the law and saying, look, we can't allow President Trump on the ballots anymore because he's a felon. He's a criminal. Pisses me off, man. It's the hypocrisy pisses me off. Shaquan, final thought, and then we're going to wrap up. What's your take on it?
The truth is that law is complicit in allowing all of this to be possible. The bedrock of this country, the Constitution, state and local laws, but really what we're talking about are federal laws right now in regards to this situation. They're designed to support the complicit nature of underhanded politics and authority and power of white men, rich white men specifically. And until we really undercut that and lay out what is law, what is working and what is not, then I don't think there will be much remedy to these types of instances. And we will be in this, running this gamut of whether we as a people, albeit whether you identify by political party, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, for whatever you identify as, if the system is not working for you, we have to render what is the best way forward. Which we previously talked about in different episodes, like political parties and all these things that have been at hand and in discussion for decades. But we're really going to have to move forward with some action in determining what is best for us.
There it is.
The Democratic Party, as you said, has to grip the cojones. We got to get some work done.
That's what it is. Let me just share with you very quickly some of the comments that we've gotten. Janae said, look, Farajii, I appreciate your outrage. We need that energy into our own affairs because the justice that be is mockingly silent. It is frustrating, but we too need to move like the G in lasagna.
Big facts, sis.
Janae, I hear you on that one. I love it. Embrim 9763 said, but the Lord is faithful. He will establish us and guard us against the evil one. Right. Amen. Danita checked in and said, hypocrisy at its best. Come on. I know that's right. Tiny said, part of these people problem is they think they are the only ones that are intelligent. They think they are always the smartest people in the room. And that's the thing. Because you got all this, and look, Chinese, they got all this on film. They got this. I mean, Donald Trump was doing stuff in the White House but everything in the White House is recorded, all communication. So you're not the smartest man in the room when you're telling your whole business. Now, you're the smartest man in the room if you're telling your business and no one penalizes you. Yeah, you must be really smart.
I think that's what they think. I think they do think they're the smartest in the room for that very reason, because they can do what they want and not be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're trying to belittle intelligence. I think they're trying to amplify their own.
But looking at, again, I'm going back to it. If the Biden-Harris administration don't deal with this, this is a growing cancer. I'm telling you, anything related to Trump from this point forward, we already knew about how it's already dealt with since he came into President Biden got into office. But anything related to Trump from this point forward, this administration going to have to deal with it. They're going to have to really deal with it, because you're creating a situation where you're going to kill the desire. You're going to kill the desire for people to want to be involved in any type of election. You're extinguishing the flame of democracy with silence. While they're mockingly silent, and we need to be silent, but the administration can't be silent on this. Because otherwise, for black, brown, and even white people, if you of good conscience can see the level of hypocrisy, see the BS, then something else has to change. This can't keep going on. You can't tell the country that, hey, man, don't worry about that other guy that's making all that noise, and then telling people to be treasonous, seditious, and quote unquote against the very fundamentals of this country. Don't worry about him. He'll eventually stop talking. Please. So that's the problem there. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, more conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back. This next conversation that I think we need to have is just, it kind of goes in alignment with what we were just talking about. It's just this level of, I mean, just white, it's not white grievance, but it's this level of white supremacy that continues to be a real poison. And I'm talking about Tucker Carlson and his calling for the LSAT scores of federal judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. As the president said on Tuesday night that she's one of the greatest legal minds of our generation, Mr. Carlson came back behind that and said, well, if she's one of the greatest legal minds, let's see her LSAT scores. I want to let's play the clip of what Tucker had to say.
So it might be time for Joe Biden to let us know what Ketanji Brown Jackson's LSAT score was. What did she do in the LSATs? Why wouldn't he tell us that? That would settle the question conclusively as to whether she's a once-in-a-generation legal talent, the next learned hand. It would seem like Americans in a democracy have a right to know that and much more before giving her a lifetime appointment, but we didn't hear that. And that was just one of many things that Joe Biden...
We didn't hear about her LSAT scores. She's a federal judge, bruh. What you need to know about her LSAT scores for? Obviously, if you knew her history, she rose through the ranks of the legal system. She served as a clerk for Associate Justice Breyer, who is the one retiring. He vouched for her, obviously. Now you want to see her LSAT scores. Really? Because you're a lawyer. Oh, that's what it is. You're a lawyer, Tucker Carlson. That's right. Hell no, you ain't no damn lawyer. How you going to ask for something that you don't even know how to, you don't understand yourself? What are you looking at? What is the basis for the request? Oh, I see. I see. So you being a huge proponent of a huge advocate for Donald Trump, you didn't put Donald Trump's test scores out there because we all know what those test scores look like. But you asked for a black woman. You asked her for her test scores as if she's not qualified. I want to bring my sisters back into this conversation. Shaquay McKenzie, Bakari Jones. Once again, we seeing this bullshit on full display where these white men think they could just, hey, I'm going to just ask for the LSAT score. Who cares? At this point, she was the editor of the Harvard Law Review. Don't that makes you, isn't that enough? You know, she did her time in the legal system, working her way up. So now you need to see the test scores for her being in. Let me just share with you what the test scores mean. And then I'm going to get y'all take on this. According to the Law School Admission Council, the LSAT is an integral part of law school admission. The purpose of the LSAT is to test the skills necessary for success in the first year of law school. Those skills include reading comprehension, reasoning, and writing. And the test results help admission decision makers and candidates alike gain valuable insight as to law school readiness. Studies have consistently shown the LSAT to be the single best predictor of first-year law school performance, even better than undergraduate grade point average. While the Law School Admissions Council believes the LSAT is important, we strongly encourage schools to include as just one part of a holistic admission process that considered the skills and lived experience of each candidate. That's from the Law School Admissions Council. Bakari, what is this that this joker is talking about?
Another joke, Farajii. Another joke, to be honest. I think, we talked, it was last week, we all understand that future Justice Brown Jackson was essentially overqualified, is overqualified for this role. One of the things that was interesting to me about Tucker Carlson's comment was that it prompted me to find out whether or not there were other justices who, folks requested their LSAT scores. And then even beyond that, finding out that not only does a justice not have to be a lawyer, they don't even have to have a law school. They don't have to be a law school graduate. So wow. Even if it's not a prerequisite for becoming a Supreme Court justice. So to me, it just kind of further exemplifies just how racist that question was in the first place. Now, justices have to be trained in the law, obviously, but they don't have to actually graduate from law school. So just the simple fact that he asked that question, it's like if you're trying to pull out that thread to attempt to paint Justice Brown or future Justice Brown Jackson as someone that's unqualified for the role, that wasn't even the question to ask. That wouldn't have been the question to ask to attempt to do that. So to me, it just is blatantly racist. He didn't ask that question on any of the other justices that were nominated by President Trump, former President Trump, to my knowledge.
What about Brett Kavanaugh? Amy Coney Barrett? Shaquille, he didn't ask for that.
Well, even Tucker Carlson being a figure of this segment plays right into the very reason why he made that statement. This is an old play out of the Trump's Obama birth certificate.
Yep.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You understand? It's such a chasm of common and logical sense that it is not a standing reference for anything that makes sense as it relates to vetting the qualification of an associate Supreme Court justice or anybody that's entering politics. This is not only out of the racial playbook, such was the example of Obama and the birtherism movement. This is it follows in line with the tradition of the amelioration of Black people's intellect and their ability to hold positions where their intellect is at. It is a burgeoning force in the work that they do. I think that Tucker Carlson says and does anything ridiculous to maintain his relevance, because as an actual, respected and if we're talking about qualifications, qualified journalist, he is not one. And therefore, he has to have these moments where he's playing or, sounding off the dog whistle and playing to the audience and the base that he attracts in his viewership. It really is so ridiculous that I can't even comment too much on it besides that, because it's just it's a play. He knows who he's talking to. He knows who he's trying to get upset or make upset. And we know that he's not ever regarded any of the conservative Supreme Court justice nominees, now Supreme Court judges, when Trump presented or otherwise, when Bush, in any Republican history, there's never been a consideration of LSAT scores, which measures critical thinking skills, and some of what you said from the Law Admissions Council and in the overall statement. It doesn't even evaluate the legal mind, if you will.
So right. It doesn't say this is what like LSAT is used as the determining factor for you to become a lawyer. It's just helps you to helps folks to understand how you think, how you reason, how you interpret, right? And it's done at the first year of law school. I mean,
before
law school, right?
The admissions test. It's like the SAT or it's like the GRE, of which you cannot take the LSAT. You don't even have to take the LSAT to get into law school. You can take the GRE. So it just doesn't make sense.
Now here's why I think this is something that is worthy of a conversation. Just because we're in a time, Shaquaya and Bakari, that people that have massive platforms, they are able to influence people. And in a time and in a culture that we're currently in, people will believe anything to be valuable, right? People will say, oh man, yeah, that's a good point. Where are her LSAT tests? What are her scores? For example, and here's why I'm saying this, because Nielsen, back in February, it was a study done. Nielsen found that Tucker Carlson Tonight was the top show in the time slot of 8 and 9 p.m. in October among both Republicans and Democrats ages 25 to 54. Of those demo-aged viewers surveyed who identified as Democrats, 39% chose Fox News, 31% chose MSNBC, and 30% chose CNN for programming from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. So that just goes to show you that liberals, that Democrats and Republicans are listening to this guy, right? And that just further says that if they're listening to this guy, somebody is going to take his nonsense for real, right? Which is why we really do have to have a consistent effort to debunk all of the madness and the garbage that we see, right? And it's not just about Republican and Democrats, obviously, based on this data. It's really about how people think, like to undermine any black person. I don't care if you agree with the politics of Judge Jackson or not. I don't care if you disagree with her lifestyle of her being married to Patrick and he a white man. I'm saying that this part of the conversation is about how oftentimes when we as black people get in a position of power and influence and authority, there's always someone to try to undermine that in any capacity. There's always someone to throw the seed of doubt and suspicion into the air or into the ground to try to disrupt our view of that person as being qualified, intelligent, great. There's always somebody like that. There's always, and then we've seen this, whether you're in corporate America, the nonprofit or government sector, wherever, every time when, and this is unfortunate, and this is a result of white supremacy, there's always white people that every time you reach a certain level, then they got to move the goalpost even further. Oh, what about this? It happens to us all the time. And we as a people break our necks trying to keep up. We try to keep up, Bakari.
Yeah.
At the expense of our own sanity, and we try to keep up at the expense of our own dignity. We don't have to entertain that madness anymore. This is 2022. I don't have to keep proving myself to a joker like you anymore. Those days are done, buddy. Those days are done. I got more degrees, I got more intelligence, and I'm further along in the process than you are. I don't have to prove the damn thing to you, bro. Bakari, what's your take?
Well, I mean, I was gonna say, in addition to the things that you listed out, it also impacts our financial stability. You know, one of the other articles from the Griot mentioned that there's a $1 million ad campaign urging the Senate to quickly confirm the nominee.
All right, we got to play that.
I just $1 million, and I just want to I just had to highlight that when I'm like, it's one thing to have an ad, right? So the ad campaign ultimately seeks to influence the Senate, right? Then influence constituents to then influence their respective senators, but $1 million. And so it's like, is this in response? I don't think it's directly in response to Tucker Carlson's comment, but I think to Shaquaya's point, it's just distraction, right? It's like clickbait, essentially, just trying to take us off target, and it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate to see. So when I just saw the dollar amount associated with it, it's like how the finance, the resources that are again extracted from our community to be able to try to sway folks to do something that is right. It's just the time in history where we are right there. And again, we haven't seen this with any other Supreme Court nominee that has come down to this. And so I agree with what you said, Farajii. Again, she's overqualified, and it's unfortunate that this is what we are seeing unfold.
And I want us to just keep in mind that again, this is bigger than just her personal lifestyle, her personal politics, and personal choices. I'm saying that we need to always come to the defense of each other when we see white supremacy rearing its ugly head. That we just can't throw each other to the wolves because we don't agree with the way a person lived their life, right? At the end of the day, there has to be a different precedent that has to be set. Keenan, can you I do want to play that ad that you talked about, Bakari. And it was an ad featuring prominent Black women, and it should be in that same piece that you pulled up that for Tucker Carlson, Keenan. But in that ad, it features prominent Black women who are working in various fields and various capacities. But the thing is that we can't allow people to just beat up on any part or any member of the community and think it's okay to get away with. I mean, especially for something of this magnitude, Shaquaya. We can't just say, oh, okay, yeah.
No,
I
don't think we ever have. I think when there's just outrageous questions or not questions, but claims to trying to challenge a person's legitimate qualification or ability to render authority with the qualification they have, I think that it is incumbent and it is a visceral reaction from our community to defend and protect each other from these outrageous claims. What I love about this, about Tucker Carlson's attempt, is that she is so qualified that they can only reach back and ask about something she did almost 30, 40 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't, I thought my perception upon, accepting that she was going to be the nominee was that, oh, okay, the first thing they're going to try to attack is her ruling and opinion on cases that involve Trump or the Trump administration. Clearly, smooth target, those your folks, hold your folks down, talk your mess. But she's so qualified, even on her rulings of that, they can't touch that. They have to make some ridiculous, irrelevant, or I'm not going to say they, but he and whoever okayed his script, they have to reach so far back that they can't blemish her record of distinguishment, and it's just a joke. It literally is a Twitter joke.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and not just is it just a joke, it's again going back to my favorite word. This is gonna be my word today, y'all. I'm insulted. This is 2022. And we have to, I truly believe that we have to get to be more offensive rather than defensive. Like we too many times do people hurl all types of just madness at us, right? BS at us only. And then we got to get into defense mode. We got to, oh my gosh, we got to say this, or we got to put out a statement, or we got to do this. No, we don't. Baby. No. This is 2022. We should be, throwing them. Just like throwing them. Like, hey, you got next, and we throwing it at you. Oh, you want some? Let's go. You know what I'm saying? We Oprah Winfrey out there. You get some. You get some. You know what I'm saying? Like we can't allow people to just come in, disrupt any level of Black excellence, any level of Black achievement, any level of progress that we're striving to make in this country because of their fear, because of their grievance, because they feel like they're going to lose something. That's
their insecurity.
Their insecurity.
You mentioned Farajii. I just got to say, you mentioned, I think twice so far this afternoon, white supremacy. And I just want to add the myth of in front of that as we move forward in our conversations, because it's that myth of white supremacy that I think ultimately has them shook, that leads to the behavior that we're witnessing right now in our time.
Absolutely. I want to play this ad. Bakari, you talked about it. We got it. I want to play this ad of Black women showing their support for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Check it out.
Time. It's time. It's time.
It is long past time. It is long past time for the first
Black woman Supreme Court Justice. Because she is brilliant and fair.
Because she applies the law equally.
Because she is beyond qualified. Because with so much experience, she is ready to do the job.
So now, it's time for the Senate to confirm her without delay.
Paid for by Demand Justice.
There it is. There it is. It reminds me of the time. Remember when Barack Obama was first running for office? I mean, when he ran for president, and there were so many people that were hurling all types of stuff about Barack. They were saying this and they were saying that, right? And I remember being guided and told, hey, look, this is a serious situation. Even if you have differences about Barack's politics, and this is back like 2008, so about 2007. I was keeping up with this whole campaign for like 2 years. And you know, it was always taught to me that even if you have your differences with him personally, don't say things that would, especially if you have a platform, don't say things that would disrupt the people, and I'm speaking of Black people's joy about having this man in office. Set aside your differences and see the big picture of having a Black man for the first time being president in the White House. Like, not be so critical, right? You critical once he gets there. You critical once he starts doing his job. But when he was running, there was this sentiment that some of us wanted to be so critical of him and what he stood for and all of that stuff. And it was like, bruh, why are you so critical right now?
Because he's not one of us. It's his job to be critical. It's Tucker Carlson's job to create that wedge socially, in the sense that he is the number one host or talk show at the hour block, as he is, as you recalled, or was at one point. Not sure if he remains to be, if his show still remains in that position. But this is, as I recently recalled on another episode, this is the throes of the dying Republican control phase and season, if you will. And so they have to, and by they, I do mean there's a concerted effort and a collaboration and coordination of how they drive specific topics, specific aspects of questioning individuals, and just overall tarnishing individual character relevant to anything that is opposed to them. That is their job. That is his job. That has been Fox's job for years, but really, more prominently so since Donald Trump became president. And I think the Black community, the Democratic community has, for the sake of a lack of visibility because of all of the media coverage that's happening with the war in Ukraine, I think has been vehement in its response, not just to attacks, but has been quite in an offensive position to assert the blatant overqualification that Ketanji Brown Jackson has, and the campaign fulfillment that campaign promise fulfillment that Joe Biden has now rendered. And I don't really know if there is anything besides this that can create an aghast response from society. I'm sure that Mitch McConnell and Chuck Grassley and the so forth and so-called others on the Senate have room to try to make some things amok throughout the process, but she's going to be confirmed. I think that we know she is going to be under somewhat of a microscope when she takes office, but not any more than Amy Coney Barrett was or has been, right? There was a lot of controversy around her appointment because it came on the heels of RBG's death, who pleaded with Trump to fulfill or have the next president fulfill the role. But so far as what can be said about her process and her consequential commentary or political commentary that surrounded her since she's been appointed, I think the same will happen with Ketanji Brown Jackson. Sis is good.
I mean, look, let me just say, I think we're going to see her getting confirmed. I think we're going to see her getting, making history this year. I don't see any major roadblocks. I think that, to your point, Shaquaya, that Mitch McConnell and the GOP, I think they're probably going to have to just like, all right, we're going to let him have this one, because I think they're looking at November. I think they're looking at these elections.
No question.
And saying, okay, you might have this Supreme Court pick, but then, in a couple of months, we're going to have the Congress, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just feel like we have to be very strategic. We have to be very strategic about us. And I think I'm getting into a space now where I'm just so sick and tired, Bakari, of the constant attack on Black people by so many different voices and by the system. I mean, it's just getting to be, we was already at a bubbling over point, but it's just at this point, it's like, bruh, we can only take but so much, man. Like seriously, like Black folks can only take but so much. You keep, punching and kicking us, and all right, man, you know what? We're going to cut your goddamn foot off. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's only going to be taken. We're only going to take so much. We can't get through 2022. We're trying to get over COVID. We're trying to get over the economics of the situation. We're trying to deal with the fact that Black history is out of school. We got all these challenges. Now you want to kick us while we down. We're only going to take but so much, man. I think this year is going to be the game-changing year for Black America. Because why? Based on just simple dissatisfaction, Bakari. I think our dissatisfaction rate is going to go through the roof by the end of the year. By 2023, we're probably going to be in a whole different mindset. Like, bro, we're not doing this no more. We're not playing no more, business as usual. No more, we just going to go along to get along. All of that shit is dead at this point.
I agree. I think our frustration rate has been high for a while. I think we're at a really interesting intersection where that level of frustration, our level of awareness, and the access to technology, information, knowledge, and just general understanding about how things work in our country, how we're able to advance change. It's like they're all coming together at a really unique, a really unique sort of like bubbling point, if you will. So I agree with you, Farajii.
I mean, I'm wondering if we're going to see, not if we're going to see, Shaquaya and Bakari, I really hope that it is us as the next generation leading the charge. I really hope that it is us that say enough is enough, right? And I know a lot of times when we say those things, people automatically assume that it's going to get into a space of violence, but it doesn't have to be a space of violence. Right. The uprising can be a political uprising. The uprising can be a social uprising. Uprising could be an economic uprising. The uprising can simply be, look, let's organize our talents, let's organize our resources, and let's try to do something different. That's where I'm at right now. I want to organize. I want to help to create, and this is what this purpose of this platform is going to be, to bring those voices, especially for the next generation, to bring those voices on and say, look, we're not the same. You know what I'm saying? We're not the same. Our parents have done a hell of a job considering the circumstances. Our grandparents have done a hell of a job considering the circumstances. But we are a different generation. We are not the generation to bow down and to keep our heads hung low. That's not us, bruh. That's not us. You got us effed up if you think that that's black. That's the next generation of black leaders. That's not us.
Mm-hmm.
I
We're
think
more
at the same time, real quick, we're gonna go and feed off of the power and the energy that we saw with Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and any of those. If you go back to them old films of Jesse and Sharpton, if you go back to anybody, I mean, just looking, we're going to work from that power. But that's not us. We ain't that generation no more. Go ahead, Shaquille. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. I just was agreeing with you with saying that I think we are at a zenith at the time where the millennial generation and Generation Z, who's coming up right underneath us, are more astutely fixed as it relates to educational attainment, upward mobility financially, and then we still have the depths of disparity that cradle our communities in terms of the wealth gap and how it's been exacerbated with the COVID-19 pandemic. So from that, you have a boiling pot of being pissed, being educated, being prepared, in a sense of seeing what has happened throughout the civil rights period, the assassination of our leaders, martyrdom, political imprisonment, and mass incarceration, which was a consequence of laws directly, enforced to diminish the power of political organization in our communities. And I think the zenith, though, in terms of the energy, that we're at the zenith, the period of time and peak time to have not reformation, but transformation of how we operate in this society socially and politically. But there's also room and much work to be done as it relates to strategy, collaboration, and true organization that utilizes technology, that utilizes 21st century innovation to become more efficient, to become more covert, if you will, and to become more unified in the things that we do. I do believe that we are more Malcolm towards the end of his life than we are, not the nonviolent Martin that is often evoked at us, trying to assuage our rage and our fury. But I think there's a lot more work to be done to study and understand what was successful in the grips of the civil rights movement relevant to economic boycott, and also what was successful with Malcolm X and the Black Panther Party in terms of not militarizing, but having our own force and again, strategy and collaboration in how we organize our communities and protect our communities. Yeah. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of study to be had, but I do think we're at a pivotal point for our generation, and we are going to take up physical and literal arms if need be.
Let me tell you, we don't have no choice at this point. If after watching this, well, you know what? I'm gonna hold my thoughts. I gotta take a quick pause. When we come back, we're gonna continue the conversation. So stay with us, folks. We got still a lot left in today's conversation right here on The Culture, only on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking a little bit about some of the big stories around political stories. We've been having a conversation about Tucker Carlson, the Fox News commentator who called for the LSAT scores for federal judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, and not just talking about that particular situation, but what that particular scenario truly represents in the larger scheme of things, that we are at this point where we are tired of constantly trying to prove our greatness, tired of constantly trying to explain ourselves to people that don't deserve it. We're tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of Black people being put in a position where we have to once again, coalesce or really submit ourselves, acquiesce the wrong term, but acquiesce to someone's request because they felt like, you know what, I have the authority to demand something from you. Mm-hmm. I can do this, even though you have Tucker, you have no law degree. You're not even a lawyer. So what are you calling for that for when you don't even work in the law field? So who the hell are you? And I'm tired of that arrogance, especially when it comes to members of the Black community. We always got to prove ourselves because so-and-so says it. Hey, get the hell out of our face with that. That day is over. But even more so than that, and I want to bring back my culture crew, Shaquaya McKenzie, Bakari Jones. But even more so than that, sisters, I really feel like, we were talking in the last segment about the next generation stepping up. Shakira Marie checked in and said, much respect for the older generation. They went through a lot for us, but it's time for the younger generations to step up. This country is in serious trouble. Shakira, thank you so much for your comment. Emma checked in and says, look, just ignore all the noises and keep going. Don't have to justify anything. Just call them out whenever they're ignorant, but don't let it frustrate you. They just want to piss us off. Well, they pissed us off. And it's not just about Tucker Carlson, because I don't give a damn about Tucker Carlson. It's just about the audacity,
caucasity,
or the caucasity, of you even thinking that your demand or your request or I have a right to know. But we don't have the audacity. We can't speak like that, right? Well, that's changed today. But I want to get back to that point, though, Shaquay and Bakari, that y'all both were making about this next generation. And Shakira hit it right on the nose. This country is in serious trouble. Black youth can serve as the key. The next generation, we can serve as the key to unlocking a new future, a new destiny, not just for the Black community, but for the whole country. I truly, truly believe that. And how we will do it is through organizing and strategizing and coming to a place where we say, you know what, we've had enough of the BS coming from both parties. We've had enough of the BS coming from any system, whether it's law enforcement, education, social, healthcare. We've had enough. I mean, we have to start to take fate into our own hands. We don't have the liberty to keep waiting on a mystery god or for a Superman or for some magical situation to happen to change the course of our lives in this country. We just don't have the liberty for that. Shaquay, you and I have children. And at this point, what are we leaving for them if they see that the country that they're a part of is falling down around them when they get to that age? And the question that I always think about when I think my son is 8 years old, so he asks me a lot of questions now. So I know this question is coming. Dad, when all this stuff was happening, what were you doing?
Mm-hmm.
What were you doing, Dad, when this was going on, when that was going on? And it's a hell of a thing to tell your children, I wasn't involved, son. I wasn't involved. I just focused on getting money and just putting food on the table. Well, that's going to happen. I mean, that's a natural thing. We're going to do that. But when he asks about what the child is really asking, Shaquay, is, did you give yourself up to a cause bigger than you? Did you see beyond your personal to see the collective? That's what I hear when a child asks, where were you? Shaquay, what's your take?
I'm in complete agreement. Having children, if you're already a civic or servant leader-centered individual, once you have children, the throbbing sense of needing to do something just rings louder. And whether you have children or not, I think anyone living in these times must beg themselves the question, what is it that I need to do to change the trajectory of where we are going as a society and where I am fixed in position in the context of my community?
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I don't know if this has just been like priming, because sometimes, when you see something or you hear something, not necessarily for the first time, but indefinitely when you hear it for the first time, then you start to see it or hear it everywhere. And it was interesting after our conversation last week with our sister who came on, the author of Reclaiming Your Community, and spoke about, urban revitalization and being able to build our communities into the beacons of hope that we hope they serve to be, rather than moving out and feeling like we need to find upward mobility by uprooting ourselves. I've been seeing different conversations take place on different platforms. And there has been this argument that in these conversations I've been hearing Black people in particular say, we want to position people so that they can move out of bad neighborhoods, so that they can get to better places in life, be able to put their kids in better schools. And every time I hear these types of arguments, it is just so frustrating, because if everybody moves up out of the bad neighborhood, then who's left? Right? Everybody in a bad neighborhood isn't bad. And I'm making this macro to micro and saying that example that we have to really start thinking about as a community, as a Black community, whether you're poor to middle class, as urban communities, whether you're mixed demographically, racially, we are all living in America, and we are all going to face the consequences of the systems that have historically served some people more than others. And where we are at a transformational point in being able to redetermine how it operates for the betterment of the whole society. And I want to be able to say, you know, in the face of burnout, frustration, pain, trauma, I want to be able to say in the face of that, like, we've got to do the work. But there is a lot of personal and collective healing that we have to do concurrently while we're strategizing and working, because otherwise we do kind of have that relapse where we're not able to fully push forward on the frontier and gain the momentum that we need to be able to change things legislatively and be able to change things systemically. I think the question that we also must beg of ourselves as young people is, how do we learn from the elders? How do we take in the wisdom that they have acquired and that they have so rightfully earned through their own strife and trial and attempt of making this society work better for us? So intergenerational, intercultural, interdenominational learning has to be something that we prioritize, right? Rather than detract from, or we cannot further find ourselves investing in the spirit of tribalism, even though that is natural and inherent to what the status quo is, right? We have to resist that in a sense in our communities and be intentional about coalition building that reflects in terms of ideology, reflects what we really want to leave for our children.
No, I think that's absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right, especially around that intergenerational, intercultural piece, which is, you know, we do have to figure out, Bakari, you know, how we're going to learn from this. It made me think about Mr. B's birthday. He celebrated 95 years. Brother Roland went down and had a chance to, you know, celebrate with the, you know, Harry Belafonte and the fact of, you know, who he is and what he brought to the movement. And it's like, you know, being able to be in a room and to learn. We Bakari, we have to, you know, I think we really should be in a space where at all costs, just inundating ourselves with good guidance, with people who have done this work, right? Who have run the race for years. Now, I'm not expecting Mr. B to continue to run the race the way he did 30 and 40 years ago. I'm not expecting that, and that's hard, and that's crazy for us to believe that.
Right.
He's inspired so many other folks at this point. He don't need to sit back and just relax, but he can just advise from wherever he's comfortable with. You know what I mean? Like any of our leaders who are up in age at this point, they are advisors. The scriptures say it best. Young men for counsel, old men for war. I mean, your old men for counsel, young men for war, excuse me. So when you're talking about getting that counsel, and I think, Shaquaya, to your point, that we shoot ourselves in the foot when Black youth say we don't need nobody, we got this. We shoot ourselves in the foot because there's no other people that turn their back on their ancestors, on their grandmother and grandfather. The Jewish community don't do that. They keep that wealth going, but it's not just financial wealth. They keep the wealth of knowledge going. The Asian community don't do that. They don't turn it. You don't see Asian youth saying unless they migrated to this part of the world, but they don't turn their back. That is an American thing. I might be wrong in saying using that term American, but I'm saying like that's that level of isolationism and that level of individualism. That's the type of culture we got in this country where we like, nah, it's all about me. I'm the universe. It's all about me. I'm history. I make this. I do that. I. And we forget. The culture will make us forget that we actually stand because somebody else stood. Bakari?
I mean, once again, we the amen corner for each other on here. I agree. You know, I think we're in an interesting place again because I think it is American, that sense of individuality that we have. I do think is something that's to an extent uniquely American. I think it's like further exacerbated by the amount of technology and the access that we have to technology. I think it creates a greater sense of individuality or perceived individuality. Because of, you know, we have talked about this before, but right, the use of social media, the impact of social media on our culture, and a lot of times we're just seeing the highlight reel. And so, what does it look like for us? I think to Shaqua's point, to get in the crates and to get into the behind the scenes footage of our elders from the intergenerational, cultural, and denominational point, you know, as she mentioned. What does that look like for us to really be in the stacks and to find out what those sort of L's were, you know, behind closed doors? I think for me, that's one of the things that I'm, you know, sort of challenging myself. Like, how can I share more of those things that aren't shiny or aren't sexy, aren't appealing or attractive, really? But what does it look like to be able to share the lessons that I've learned? I'm not someone that has children, but I have a lot of, you know, young people in my life that I love and care for. That's the question I'm asking myself. What does that look like to be able to share that? And then also just wondering what that looks like for us. I think to be able to sit at the feet of our elders. You know, how do we identify them collectively, individually? You know, to be able to get some of that knowledge. But I think that you both make incredible points that it's something that's necessary, and we know that it's, you know, as cliche as it is, right? History repeats itself. So we know that ultimately everything that we study from our elders is only going to help us advance ourselves in the first place. So.
And that's the thing about it, Bakari, for me, because I want to make sure, you know, we can do so much if we stand together, right? It feels like if we have the opportunity to bring people together, if we have the opportunity to use our platform responsibly to enlighten and to empower, if we have the opportunity to impact the culture in any way positively, we should take it. We should take it. At this point, we have so many serious things, and I'm looking at just some of the comments from our watchers on our YouTube chat. And let me just tell you, folks, people, and based upon our watchers from Donita Jackson, Stephanie Travis, Nisa 1971, my man Sports Actuary, Carl Rock, all of these folks, everybody knows that this time that we currently have right now is so critical that we're at a make or break point for our people. Shaquaya, we're really literally at a make or break point for our people. Like, if we don't build the bridges from the past to the present to help us to the future, if we don't say enough is enough, if we don't, one of our watchers said something, I thought this was so good. I'm gonna try to go to this really, really quickly. She was talking about the fact of yeah, we can talk about having faith in God, but faith is an action word that requires us to do something, not just sit around. And at this point, I want that active faith.
Mm-hmm. Faith by works.
Mm-hmm. Right. I want my faith to be wrapped up not in the words that I use. Yes, that's a part of it. But the real faith is to go out and to put in some work, to do something that's going to change and improve the quality of life for somebody. And at this point, we can't just have a couple of lives impacted. We have to have multiple lives impacted, Shaquille. This thing has to, because the time is getting to a point now. We just don't have enough time. We don't have the liberty to say, hey, man, we'll just kind of push this to the back burner. In 2022, we're dealing with all of these issues as a community, as a generation. We're dealing with all of these things as a people. We don't have the liberty to say, I'm going to wait, or let's put that, let's hold off on that and let's focus on this. You know, when I saw the State of the Union from the president, it really like hit me like, man, this dude really didn't, I'm not going to disrespect the office and say this dude, but the president really didn't speak to us.
Honestly, a lot of his talking points were very repetitive. It's what we've heard from 2020 on upward in terms of the campaign. I mean, whoever's Biden's speechwriter is just, I don't want to disrespect whomever those individuals are, but man, they need somebody to come in and break it up, because it's very repetitive, very docile toned, and I just to get back to your point of thinking about this being a crucial and climactic point in our history or in our present, but looking at history and where we are now, this is a very critical time in terms of being active towards progressive change. I think the pandemic was an impediment to our ability to physically organize, and therefore there lacked innovation about how to really succinctly organize in a way where people were not burnt out through technology. I think we have an amazing opportunity with everything opening up right now, and being able to get into physical spaces, or being able to canvas, or being able to organize among our faith-based organizations and raise these conversations up with the level of a sense of urgency. I don't know personally, because it is not my sense, that the younger generation takes as seriously as the millennial generation. And when I say younger, I just mean those who are positioned in adulthood right now, millennial to underneath the baby boomer, millennial to Gen Z. Yeah. I get a sense that there's a convoluted notion of what should be a priority for Black people, also because they are more interculturally involved and aware. I question if they even determine for themselves whether there should be issues for Black people in particular, or if we do need to continue to mitigate our issues in the context of a socioeconomic status, which is not wrong on their behalf, because it is, we know race is a construct that was purposely meant to divide people, right? And therefore the rectifying how we acknowledge that, but also assuage that in our dealings, and trying to stake claim and repatriating the wrongs that have been done to us for centuries. There needs to be a lot of work of that. And honestly, to Bakari's point, because of technology, I just think there's so much distraction. It's hard for people to maintain focus, and especially the younger generation, to maintain focus on what it means to organize, to create progressive change in your community, to gather and utilize resources that will, in a sustainable fashion, that will be able to actually endure, changes of seasons of changes and seasons of change priorities. And I just, I personally feel convicted to become more involved when it comes, because Farajii, personally, we've done the grassroots, we've done the knocking on the doors, we run programs, we do this work, right? But there is a more radical sense of innovation that needs to take place that spans, from education all the way through tech and venture capital. There's a lot of bridging the gaps, if you will, that needs to take place. But I do believe what the pandemic did give us an opportunity to do was to reset our priorities in terms of thinking about the fundamentals of life and what we want to leave for our children, back to the point you made before. And I think people who maybe had been a little bit more hyper fixed on their individual position in society are now more concerned about the collective position of people of color in society. And we're going to take advantage of this time. I certainly feel it around the people who are around me, and I hope that this is a sentiment that's shared across the nation. I think it is. I mean, we know the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery protest didn't happen out of thin air. That was organizing. So there is something at the themes of the work we're doing that's going to further fill in the tapestry of the way ahead.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ladies, I'm going to stop it there. I know we were a little bit off of our script. My producer's like, I know she's probably like, what in the world? We had a lot of other stories to talk about, but sometimes when the spirit hits you like this, you know, that's the beauty of this show. When the spirit hits you, you just go along with it. And I just wanted us to have at least this part of the conversation. It's unscripted, it's raw, and it's real. I mean, everything that I said, I truly believe in, folks. I'm not going to just say anything out of my mouth to create a reaction. I truly believe in this. So I want to thank both of you sisters for joining us. Bakari Jones, who is an activist. She works with the various communities, and she's been doing a fantastic work. So thank you again, Bakari, for joining us today. And then Shaquaya McKenzie, who is an educator and activist. I mean, two brilliant women. I love having deep conversations with, and God willing, we'll be seeing each other next week. But just know we are going to move forward on some of these ideas that we shared today. So thank you again so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Always.
Folks, I want to end today's show. I had something in my mind around, what I would say to you to close out today. I have what we call the last word, right? So, every Friday we try to get in a word that summarizes all the things that we've talked about over the past week. And I had a word in mind, actually. I did have a word in mind, and I was going to kind of expound on this idea, but then it just hit me. It kept being said just in this conversation today. Time. It's time. And I want to share something that one of our watchers, Brims 9763, said that this resonated with me. And so many of you are putting comments into the YouTube chat that, I'm really thinking about. But Embrim said, for everything, there is a season, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to be humble and a time to speak out and fight for what's right, for justice. Now is the time. I love that. Thank you, Embrim 9763. We are in a place right now, folks. I was taught, the scriptures say, in the Holy Quran, it says, by the time surely man is at loss. That if you don't know what time it is, then your actions will not bear fruit. We are at a time right now, a very serious and critical time in our juncture as a Black community, but we are at a very serious and critical time as a country, Black, white, Asian, Latino, Native American. We're at a very serious time. And now we have to start to work in accordance with the time. Otherwise, we'll find that you can be working. You ever had a situation where you were working hard, but it was out of time. It was out of season. And therefore, it didn't bear the fruit that you were hoping. We're at this time now where I feel like we've been doing a lot of work, putting in a lot of effort, but it's not bearing fruit because it's not the right time. What is the time that we should be in right now? Thinking back to all of the conversations that we've had on this show over this week, the time that I'm thinking is that we need to have a much different, harder conversation, first within ourselves and then with other people around us, about how we should move forward in this country, whether it's socially or economically, whether it's educationally or politically. But there has to be a different conversation because the time is calling for us to now respond differently. The time is calling for us to not just to just sit on the sidelines and hoping and wishing upon a star that things will change. The time is calling for us to be the change that we are praying for. That's what time it is. The time is calling for us to do things and to activate in a way that we've never been activated before. The time is calling for us to get from a place of comfort to becoming uncomfortable again. That's what time we're in. And so when we're looking at all of these things around us, the question should not be about why. I don't think that's the right question. We know why. We know how we got here. We can talk all day, all night, into next week as to how we got here. We already know that. But the question should be, what am I going to do? What am I going to do about this moment that we're in? What am I going to do about the time? And what must be done at this point? We don't want to think about the responsibility. It's easy for us to think to ourselves that we don't have a responsibility other than to push a button, other than to clap, other than to take care of our family and ourselves. But the time is requiring much more from us at this point. Time is like a master that is telling us as the student, you got to give more. We got to give more. The thing about time is that it doesn't stop. Even in the midst of our slowness or our lack, the time continues to move forward. And as a result of that, we fall behind what they say, fall behind the 8 ball because we were out of sync with time. Now, how do we know that we are in the time where change has to happen from us? How do you know that? How do you know for sure, Farajii, that this is quote unquote our time? Because dissatisfaction is present right now. Uneasiness is present right now. Insanity. When we talked about Roger Stone, Tucker Carlson, talk about Trump, talk about all of the things, all of the people, and just look at how you can see something for what it is, and yet it can be misinterpreted or distorted to be seen as something else. Isn't that crazy? When you get to that point where somebody says the sky, when you say, oh, the sky is blue, and somebody says, no, it's not, it's green. Woo. When you get to that point, it means that something needs to change. When people are operating from a different reality, that means that something has to change, because then we can't work together. We can't make progress together. We can't win together. So this is a different time. This is requiring us to be different. This is telling us to say enough is enough. We have to think differently, folks. That's why I'm so excited about what we're going to be doing, God willing, over these next few months with this show and working to create other opportunities for the next generation to get involved, working to create opportunities where we can be a part of efforts that are in accordance with the time and what must be done. This is our country. This is our birthplace. And I just truly believe, folks, I truly, truly believe, and as I said it the other day, that the best patriots are those who can speak truth to power. The best patriots are those who can call out the injustice, right? Because at the root of all of that, you want to change, but the change has to come at the right time. And I truly, truly believe now that we're at this point, the dissatisfaction rate of this country has gotten to a place where we can take our dissatisfaction and change it and convert it into fuel to represent a new time. I truly believe that. So I really, really do hope and pray that you really enjoyed the conversations, that you didn't get upset with us for kind of straying off the script a little bit, to just having a deeper conversation about where we are and how we think. But it's going to happen sometimes, and it needs to happen. Because I didn't do this, and I'm not doing this because I just want to entertain. I'm working from a different place. I'm doing this because I know it's time for us to change. And I hope and pray that you believe the same thing too. So I thank each and every one of you for being a part of the conversation. I thank you for the support. I thank you for tuning into these discussions every day. So many of you have already been doing that, and we're going to continue to work on it. But trust and believe the culture is going to be at the forefront of making sure that our efforts are not going to be in vain. We're going to be at the forefront to making sure that our voices are going to be heard. And we're going to be at the forefront to making sure that we're going to do things in accordance with time to yield the best fruit for our labor. I thank my dynamic production team. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank all of you. Make sure that you continue your support for the Black Star Network. You know, we need your support each and every day, but it's your eyes, it's your views, it's your shares. All of those things add up and help us to continue to broaden this platform and to keep making the platform better and better and better, because that is what you deserve. And that's what Black-owned media represents: excellence. So you can show your support for Black Star Network at blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure that you download the app. Continue to support us financially. Even if you don't have the money to support us, it's okay. But just tell your friends about us. Get to help us get our views up. Help us to win, because it's time for Black-owned media. It's time for us to be unapologetic. It's time for us to stop playing around. It's time for us to have a digital footprint that is going to truly represent us and our interest. So I thank you for your time today. And God willing, you know, we'll be back on Monday. Stay tuned at the 6 o'clock hour. Of course, you know, my big brother, Roland Martin, with Roland Martin Unfiltered. And as always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. I look forward to talking to you on Monday for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.